Welcome to another lesson in our data manipulation with Pandas series. This is lesson 3 of this particular topic under lesson 18, or the topic 3 in this particular series. And today we'll be covering other aspects of Pandas that will help us really understand this particular tool called Pandas. This lesson is about Pandas, and we've understood that Pandas is an amazing library that we need to further our knowledge in Python. When you start learning Python, you start with the fundamentals. After the fundamentals, you are actually going to spend some time learning about libraries. So in this lesson, we are learning about one powerful library that cuts across all tech industries, and it will help you to manipulate data. Yes, so we'll get into that and continue from where we left off. This is the third lesson in that particular series. If you missed the others, go back to the videos and get them. I have a short motivational message for you. It says that what is not started today is never finished tomorrow. What this means is that you would have to start today to see results tomorrow. If you don't start, you don't see the results. And so what we have started, what we are working on, the results will show. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing it. And you can attest to how consistent we have been month after month after month after month and week after week. And all the classes, we are very consistent. Yes, so let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing it. And we are going to make a lot of progress and have a lot of results. All right, so this is part 3 of data manipulation with Pandas. And by the end of this lesson, you will be able to efficiently load data, filter, explore, clean, and analyze data sets using the powerful library called Pandas, gaining hands-on experience with data frames to enhance your data handling skills. This particular library is one of the most important libraries that you need to add to your Python knowledge. As a matter of fact, Pandas is a course on its own, and it is something that you need to spend time for. Everyone needs to understand this particular library because every tech field is filled with data, and to manipulate data effectively, you need this particular library. We've said a lot about Pandas already. So in our previous lessons, you'll get a lot of information about Pandas, and I'm going to add a few to it so that we really understand why we have to learn Pandas, because this is one of the most powerful tools to allow you to use Python to manipulate data. If you are in a data career, this is 100% compulsory. If you're in other tech fields, it is also 100% compulsory if you will use Python. And so let us open our minds and get into this particular library. Now, Pandas is a powerful and easy to use open source library built on top of Python. So this particular library was created by a third-party individual, and this person who created Pandas, I've actually been reading one of his books. I didn't know he actually created Pandas. He wrote a book about using Pandas in Python, and I've been reading it, and I didn't know that he was the one who actually created Pandas. It's called Wes McKinley or something like that. You can check and post it in the chat if you can do that. And it was created some years ago on top of Python, and it has become the most powerful data manipulation tool in all of Python. In all of Python. It was built on top of NumPy. And so later on, you'll be introduced to another library called NumPy. It was built on top of NumPy, but this is what we use to manipulate data. It is primarily used for data manipulation, data analysis. McKinney, yes, Wes McKinney. Thank you, Francis. Yes, it is primarily used for data manipulation, data analysis, and data cleaning. Yes, and this is really, really amazing. And without Pandas, it is going to be difficult to do all of these. We know that we have various data formats, we have various data sources, but all these data sources and data formats cannot operate within Python in an effective way. And so Pandas was created so that you can bring your data into the environment of Python and create a data frame that Python can work with. With it, it becomes very, very flexible for Python to handle the data in any shape and in any form. It allows you to clean the data, it allows you to analyze, it allows you to transform, it allows you to filter, it allows you to manipulate it in any way. And the best part of it is that Pandas creates an environment where handling data is more effective and efficient than even the data structures we have within Python. And so this is like a supercharged tool and machine that is being added to Python to take data manipulation to a whole new level. Pandas has built-in functions to allow you to clean data. And so if you have data and you need it to be clean, you need to do that in Python. And if you work with data, you have to understand that cleaning data is one of the most important tasks. And it's one of the things you are supposed to master. Pandas allows you to do that. Without clean data, you cannot use the data for any analysis and any model. If you're into machine learning, if you use data that is not clean, that is not ready, the model is not going to operate well. And so data cleaning is a major, 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 major part of handling data. To filter, transform, even fill missing data, Pandas has built-in functions for that. And so with those functions, you can just call and get them done. Pandas is more powerful and more flexible and efficient than even the basic data structures in Python, like lists, tuples, sets, and dictionaries. So you can see how a list can allow you to easily manipulate data in the form of an array. But Pandas is more powerful than that. It's more powerful than that. It is even powerful than working directly with file formats like Excel, CSV, JSON, and HTML. So with all of these formats, Pandas is a tool that will allow you to operate in a magical world where data manipulation becomes so easy. Lists, tuples, sets, and dictionaries are good, but when we get to certain environments, when we get to high-performing environments, when we get to working with a lot of data, tremendous amount of data, they have a lot of limitations. That is why you need to supercharge your program with Pandas. Pandas can support millions of rows of data sets. Can you imagine that? So if you're analyzing millions of rows of data, you can use Pandas, making it suitable for handling large data in high-performing environments. It uses a lot of memory if the data is very, very large. And so you need a computer that has good amount of memory. And if you have memory, Pandas can handle the data handling if they are in millions and millions. Now, sometimes in the enterprise environments, data can be so tremendous that data does not even operate on a system, on a single computing unit. And so there are some environments where data is managed across distributed environments. And when we get to those levels, we will be introducing other forms of libraries to handle data at that enterprise level. However, on single compute systems, Pandas can manipulate data in the tune of millions and millions of rows. Pandas supports Excel, CSV, JSON, SQL, HTML, text, and many, many other data formats. And so if you want to work with data and they are in those formats, you just have to import them into Pandas, load them into Pandas, and you are free to work with your data. Pandas also works smoothly with NumPy. NumPy is a mother of Pandas. Please type NumPy in the chat for me. NumPy. Please type NumPy in the chat for me. And NumPy is another library. And later we'll get into NumPy. Pandas was built on top of NumPy. And we will get into that library. And if you're a data analyst, watch out for NumPy. If you're a data scientist, especially machine learning, watch out for NumPy because you will need to have NumPy on your CV. You can't talk about Pandas alone. You have to talk about NumPy as well. And of course, for data visualization, Matplotlib is another amazing one. Please type that in the chat for me, Matplotlib. And Pandas works smoothly with Matplotlib. If you want to use Matplotlib, Pandas is like a buddy. You can just work with both of them with ease, Matplotlib. Yes, please type that. And if this is your first time typing Matplotlib, please type it so that you get to see it well. And Matplotlib has a sister called Seaborn. They are all used for data visualization. If you want to use Python to display charts and graphs and visualizations, then Matplotlib and Seaborn are the libraries you will need, you see. And so to work with data, there are some libraries that we work with. NumPy is one of them. Matplotlib is one of them. Seaborn is one of them. And if you are in, I like the way someone wrote the Seaborn. Test it, your Seaborn is seeing too much. Please write it well. It is Seaborn. Okay, Yampandi, thank you, Francis. Thank you, David. All right. And if you are in machine learning, you are going to work with scikit-learn. So please type scikit-learn in the chats, and Pandas works smoothly with scikit-learn. As a matter of fact, in our machine learning classes, you see that anytime we import scikit-learn, we actually import Pandas first. Pandas is a buddy. It's a buddy for all data libraries. Yeah, so Pandas works smoothly with scikit-learn, with Seaborn, with Matplotlib, with NumPy, and of course, with Jupyter notebooks, making it ideal for data science and data analytics workflows. All right. Pandas organizes data into series and data frames. And if you watch our previous lessons, you will hear a lot about series. And when we talk about series, we just mean that data that is in a one-dimensional array. We have some kinds of data that are just in one dimension. And luckily, with this one-dimensional data, it even has a label. So it has a label like carrots, and then the data is there. Plus, it has the index numbers, and you can use the index numbers to access the data. We have a lot of data that's are in one-dimensional array, like lists. List is a one-dimensional data. And so you can have a list called carrots, and the values or the items in the list can be those numbers. We know that in list, we also have the indices, and the index numbers can be used to access them. So lists is a one-dimensional data. In Pandas, instead of working with a list, you can import your lists into Pandas and convert it into a series. So any one-dimensional data within Pandas is referred to as series. Then we also have what we call a data frame. A data frame refers to any two-dimensional data. And when we say two-dimensional, we are referring to rows and columns. That is what makes it two-dimensional. We are not saying that only two columns, It can be 10 columns, 20 columns. It is still a data frame. And it is called two-dimensional because it has rows and columns. All right. Today, we are going to handle some particular tags in Pandas to add to what we already know. And once we complete these set of tasks, we will move on to visualizations and cleaning and other tasks that Pandas can help us to accomplish. And then we graduate from there into advanced levels of using data in Python. All right. So some of the tasks over here is that Pandas can allow you to read data from these data formats. So if you have data in Excel, CSV, JSON, you can just read them. And we've already done that. So these are the tasks we are going to go through and complete. There are some of them we've done. And the ones we've not done, we will look at them and work on them. All right. Number two, you can see that with Pandas, you can write to data. I don't think we've done writing data to this format yet. What this means is that if you have data in a data frame, you can write it to Excel. I think what we have done is to read from Excel and read from CSV, but we have not written to CSV. Have we taken any lesson where we wrote data to CSV? This means it was in Pandas and we rather created a CSV out of the data frame. Did we do anything like that? All right. So, okay, so we've not done that. So this is something that we can also work on. All right. So if you have the data within Pandas, you can let it turn into SQL or JSON or CSV or Excel with just a single method. All right. And that will work. As for exploring the data, we've done shape, column, info, head. We've done those ones. And then we also have selecting and filtering data by columns, by rows, and conditions. So I think we've done filtering by columns. We've done some conditions because in our previous lesson, we were able to read certain columns where some values were greater than a certain number. So those were conditional selections. And we were also able to filter where the values were either critical or high or any value. And so those are conditional selections. We've been able to do that. And what we are left to do is to be able to select by rows, which is a very, very important one. And I think in our next lesson, that is what we are going to be working on. In this particular lesson, we are going to look at the basics of adding columns to a data frame. So if you have a data frame within Pandas, you can intentionally create a new column. Now, all these simple tasks, they are the tasks you will actually perform when you are working on real projects. You see, and so when you are learning Pandas, you have to know how to do that, or at least witness that being done, because in a real project, you will realize that a time will come, you may have to create a column. And so this is why we need to have very, very good understanding about these simple tasks. Also, you can rename a column. So if there's an existing column, you can rename it. And then we also have deleting a column that exists in a data frame. So all these we've not done. So we will look at how that is done. And then the remaining 4, I think we have 5 more because we need to write to data. If there's time today, we will write to the CSV and the other formats. If not, we will reserve all the rest for the next class. After the next class, we will move on to other higher aspects where we work with visualizations and data cleaning and those kind of areas in data manipulation. All right. So this is what we are going to be looking at, and we are going to approach these tasks practically. So we are going to take them as a project and we are going to create a new project today. And this particular project will go through different challenges of solving different tasks in this particular project. So the project we are going to work on today is called Student Academic Performance Analysis with Pandas. And so we are going to be given a data set, and this particular data set, we will load it from GitHub, and then we will manipulate the data set, and we will learn how to add to it, how to remove from it, how to rename and handle the data. So this is another project that you will load to your GitHub. Last week, we asked you to publish your project to GitHub. I want to know those who did it. If you did it, please share your link in the chat and let's look at a few because I explained a lot to you last week that this project, what we did last week, it is actually going to create an opportunity for you and you need to keep it in your portfolio. Yes, Francis, you did yours. It looks great. Yes. So I'd like to see those who are able to publish to GitHub. And I know that if you publish to GitHub, you publish to LinkedIn. So you are supposed to put it both in GitHub and LinkedIn. And I'm looking at Francis's work. It looks perfect. My goodness. My goodness. This looks great. And let me see. Okay. All right. So I'm rather seeing the customer feedback project. It's great. You can leave that. But I'm talking about the cybersecurity data analysis project. And I want to see those who are able to publish that. So please, let me see in the chats, and a few people have shared. Wow. So let me see some of them. Let me see Marasi, very serious student. It looks amazing. Okay. So the notebook is here. Let me click on it. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. You've done it. All right. That's it. That's it. This is very important. Let me see from Ibrahim. Let me see your work. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes. So this is amazing. Okay. This is amazing. So all these projects, be keeping them. And what they will do is that later they are going to show your progression in performing specific, working on specific projects. All right. And employers are going to use this to judge your competencies. And if you have done these things before, they open a lot of doors for you. So instead of having just a CV, you need to have these projects. So all these projects we are working on in class, package them nicely and publish them. This is an opportunity for you to have projects and build portfolio. So as we advance into more difficult projects, it will be showing your progression, it will be showing what you've been doing, and this is what you need to get opportunities. Yes, and there are jobs that you are going to get based on just the projects that you've worked on. So let's do that. Let's do that. And what we are working on now is another project. We are going to use a different data set. So all of you have seen, wow, wow. I've seen your works, and if you have not done yours, please do it. Please do it. It is super important. Super important. Yes. So the little things you do every day, they all count. Okay? They all count. Yes. There's a quote that says that don't count the days, but make the days count. So they all count. Let's make sure we have them. So this is another opportunity to work on a project. And you need to have this on GitHub as well. So this is called Student Academic Performance Analysis with Pandas. And what we are going to do is to go through a number of challenges. Like challenge 1, we are supposed to install Pandas and import it. We know that already. If you want to install Pandas, you can use pip install Pandas in your terminal or command prompt, and it will install Pandas. If you have Python installed, it will install Pandas. If you want to install it in Jupyter environment, you need to add exclamation to it before it will install it. And to work on your project, you need to import Pandas as PD. The PD here is an alias. It's an alias. So as you import Pandas, you give it an alias or a nickname. So next time, if you want to call Pandas, you don't say Pandas. Because you've given it an alias, next time you just call it by the alias PD. All right. So challenge 2 is to load a data set from GitHub. So what we are going to do is to load this particular data set. So I'm going to show you the data sets. And if you get onto our GitHub, you are going to see that it is called student scores. So you can load it into your notebook, and then we'll start working on it. So let me share my environment and we will start working on this. All right, so let me do this and I'm going to load the GitHub repository first. All you have to do is to type github.com/RitaAfrica. Once you do this, you will be brought to our GitHub. And then you look for one repository called data, and you click on it. You are going to see students course. So this is the data we are going to work with. We've already discussed how to import this into your Jupyter environment. And so if you can do that, please fetch this data and import it and post your code in the chat. Let me see those who were able to import it on their own. So just load this particular data set. Once you get onto this link, github.com/RitaAfrica, you click on data and you have access to it. So let me see those who will import it. Okay, so I want to see your Jupyter notebook. So import it into your Jupyter environment. And then what you do is that you will take a screenshot and put it in the chat for me. All right, so let me start my Jupyter environment and I will just click on this and I'll type Jupyter space lab. All right, so lab LAB, and I'll hit enter and it will start the Jupyter environment for me. All right. So import it and let me see if I want to see how you did it on your own. I know most of you have done it over and over. And I'm speaking this way because there are new students amongst us and I want everyone to understand. Okay, so I'm going to start a new notebook and I will just click on this tab here. Let me actually close this. This was machine learning. Okay, let me leave it and open a new tab here and then start a notebook. So I click on this to start a notebook, and this particular project, I'm going to name it with a name in the PowerPoint, what we saw. So let me load that particular name. It says Student Academic Performance Analysis. All right, so I'm going to use this and I will just paste it here as a markdown and I will run it. Okay, and then it is good to give it a description. After you understand the project, you give it a description before you start working on it. All right, so Francis has done it. Thank you, Francis. Powerful. So this is practical. This is great. This makes me know that you are able to work on your own. And we have David. David has done it. Marasi has done it. Lucretia has done it. Wonderful. And That's wonderful. So if you have done it, just go ahead and share in the chat. All right. So next, what we are going to do is to write code instead of Markdown. And I'm just going to write a comment here to import pandas. You can just import pandas without a comment, it's fine. But I'm just going to put a comment here and type imports pandas as PD. And I will run it. And once you see the number here, it means it worked. So it worked. The next line is to read the data or load the data. So what I'll do is that I'm going to load the data set. To load the data set, we are going to store it in a variable called df. df stands for data frame. And we are just going to read it as CSV. And to read it, we need to put the data source in here as a string. Now, this data, we have it on GitHub. And so what we are going to do is to create a variable called, however you want to call it. You can create a variable called URL, and then you can store the string in here. Then when you are done, you just load URL here. All right, so URL is a variable. So if you are putting it here, you don't need to make it a string. But if you are pasting the link directly, then you make it a string. All right, so what we'll do is to put the link to the data over here. And to do that, we'll go to GitHub. And don't forget to click on this. We talked about this last week. So don't forget to click on this to load a raw data set. And now you can copy the URL. And you can come here. Let me switch to full screen now. And you can paste it here. All right, so now let's go ahead and run this. If we don't get an error, if we don't get an error, then it worked. If we got an error, then it didn't work. So I want someone to tell me why it didn't work. I actually wanted to see who would tell me. So tell me why it didn't work. Look at the code carefully. Tell me why it didn't work. And sometimes it is good to see errors so that you remember what you need to do and you take care of what you need to do. So let me see the first person who will spot the error quickly. All right, test fits, you are smart. Okay. All right, thank you, Benedine. You've done well. All right, so this read CSV is a method or function belonging to pandas. So for you to use read CSV, you need to call pandas. And we saved pandas as PD. And so this is very important. You need to come here and say PD dot with a dot notation, and then your read CSV will work. Now this read CSV, if you don't see it in blue, then it may be an issue depending on the environment you are writing in. And then we also said that depending on the data set, if it is not CSV you are looking for, you can type the dot and a tab, and you can see all the other read functions here. So we have read Excel, and we have HTML, JSON, and a lot of formats here. So let's go back and do read underscore CSV. That is it over here. And then we open our parentheses and put our URL here. All right, so now let's run it again. If we don't get an error, then it worked. All right. So now we have our data in a variable called df. df is where the data set is now. Even though this is very simple, it has all the data in it. So when you run df alone, you are going to see the data here. All right, so when you look at this particular data set, you are going to understand that it is having student ID, name, country, gender, age, math score, reading score, writing score, school name, and then class. All right, so we are going to work with this particular data, and we are going to perform some operations on this particular data set. So now we've been able to import our data, and this is what answers challenge 2. Load the data from GitHub. Now, challenge 3 is asking us to add a new column for total scores. So when you look at the data set, you can see that we have the score for math, score for reading, and score for writing. This happens all the time. You may want to add a column. So the goal here is for us to know how to add a column to the data set. Now the data set is within Pandas, and so we can manipulate it by changing it, adding something to it. Instead of df, let's do df.head, and let's run here so that we have only 5 rows showing. All right, so now what we have to do now is to add a new column called total scores. So over here, I'm going to write a comment and say adding a new column for total scores. All right, so to do this, this is what we are going to do. Over here, we are going to have the name of the column we want to create under df. So you type df and then this. And then because it is total scores, what we can do is to perform an addition of the math column, the reading column, and the writing column. So we add all of them and we save it as total score, all within the data frame. So once this is done this way, you will see that a new column has been created. Now, when you create a new column, you can actually give it any name. For example, let's come here and we want to create a new column for status. Now, to do this, in our data frame, we can go ahead and say status like this. And let's say if we want to input just a string, we can go ahead and just input the string we want. So let's run this and see if it works. Then there was no error. Let's type df.head and see what happened. So what you are seeing right now is that we have successfully created a column called pending. And so it has pending within all the rows of the data. It has pending within all the rows. So over here, you can see how simple it is to add a new column in Pandas. Now, this challenge that we are given, we are not supposed to add a column with just a particular string. We are supposed to perform a calculation and store the result of the calculation within that particular column. All right, so let's do this. Let's call it total score. And let's see those who can create this and share in the chat. All right, so create total score and share it in the chat. Create total score and share it in the chat. Over here, we've been able to create one simple one. And so what this means is that you don't have to always have any complicated code to create your column. It can be created in a very, very simple way. So let's do that for the total score. And with this one, we used a calculation for that. So let me see the first person to get this done. The first person, and run your df.head again, and let's see the first 5 rows again. Okay, so I can see people typing. Let me see the first person to post. Okay, so we have something really powerful here, and someone has actually created it. Wow, wow. All right, so we have Geoffrey. Geoffrey has done it, and it looks great. And I like the way you controlled your dot head. Francis has done it. It looks great. That is it. Now, you are going to encounter a lot of data manipulation challenges and tasks in your line of work. You are going to encounter, if you'll be working with Python, you are going to encounter a lot of data manipulation tasks. This is why, no matter how simple it is, you need to practice how to do certain things. If you have created a new column before, next time when you meet it, you know that you've created it before. Okay, so Lami, you've done a wonderful job. Marasi, let me see. You've done a fantastic job. Marasi has done it. Lami has done it. It looks great. All right, so I'm just telling you this. And sometimes there are certain courses that you'll be taking elsewhere, and it will be about machine learning or Python or data manipulation, and you are going to be seeing the instructor writing these complex codes. And so if it is not something you are used to, you are just going to be lost, you are going to be bored, you are going to be tired, and you cannot follow. And so it is extremely important that these simple tasks, you perform them before. If you have performed them before, next time when you are watching a tutorial or a video, you are able to follow and understand. All right. So that's great. That's great. That's great. If you have done yours, please post in the chat. All right. Okay, so let me create this. So we have math score, reading score, writing score for total score. So what I'm going to do right now, let me just go down and write a comment and say creating a new column for total score. So what we'll do is that we'll call our data frame and we'll say name it total underscore score. And this should be in our data frame. We have math score, so we can see the name here. If you are not sure, you can copy. Okay, all right, I've heard you. So math score, we can just put it here. And since it is an integer, we can perform the addition operation. So we can do same df for reading score. And then we have df for writing score. Okay. So let us run this. And if we don't get an error, then it worked. And let's go ahead and say df.head again. When we run this, we will see that we have the total score showing. That's wonderful. So all of you have done well. Let me see, Luis. All right, so Luis, I can see your total score. It looks awesome. It looks awesome. All right, that's beautiful. All right. So I'm going to give you the next challenge, and I want you to do it without looking at the code. So let's see who can do this. You are going to create a new column to calculate the percentage score. What we mean by percentage score is that now you know the total score, and you know the score for maths, the score for writing, and the score for reading. If all those three are 100, 100, 100, then the percentage is 100%. All right. And so put those 300 together and perform a percentage out of it. I want to see those who can create it. And after that, we will look at the code. So if the person got 200, then it's going to be 200 out of 300 times 100 so that you get a percentage. So let me see who can create it. I want to see who can create this. So please create it. I'm giving you 3 minutes. And this column, call it percentage underscore score. So the way we created total underscore score, name this particular column percentage underscore score, percentage score, and write the code in a way that the value that will be stored there is the percentage of the math, reading, and writing scores. But then we have already added them, so you don't have to do any addition or again. We've already added them and we've stored in total scores. So you can work with total scores, the total scores column. So I just want to see who will be able to create this creatively. So let's see if we have our first person. Okay, not yet. So instead of adding them again, we've already added them for total. So use the total to create a percentage. To give you a clue, it's going to be total divided by 300 times 100. So let's see how you will get it done and create a new column using Pandas. So let me see the first person to do that. I'm giving you 3 minutes and I'll check. All right, so I can see a lot of people have done it. I can see Jeffrey. I can see David. And let me see who had the greatest presentation. Okay, they all look the same and amazing. All right, so that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Wow. Wow. I think I like the work of Hillary. Hillary, your work looks so neat. Wow. Okay. So the reason is that he rounded to 2 decimal places and it makes it look better. So, okay. Okay. All right. That's wonderful. All right. So let's look at the code quickly. And over here, this is a code that everyone used and you all got it right. You all got it right. You all got it right. So what we will do is that we will just go ahead and write this code. So calculate the percentage score. So let me come here and say calculating the percentage score. And so over here, very simple, we are going to go to our DF and we are going to create another column. We'll call it percentage underscore score. And this is going to perform a calculation. All right, so here we are going to pick the total. So let me just type DF and then we look at the total score. You can copy it from here in order not to make any mistake. So this is our total score. Then this should be divided by 300 and all of them together should be multiplied by 100. All right, so if you do this right, it should be able to create it. So let's run this. Let's run this and see if it worked. And it worked. And what we can do is to run this same code again, df percentage score. We will say that it is equal to the same thing dot round of 2. So once we do this dot round of 2, what will happen is that it will use this method to round it to the second decimal place. So let's run this and let's call df.head. And what will happen is that we will get this in 2 decimal places. So this is much cleaner. And without the decimal place, it's also okay. All right, so that's wonderful. Everyone got it. And the next task, is, let's see. All right, so here is, it says that you should add a new column called status to display passed or failed based on the percentage score. Now, this percentage score, it should display passed or failed. And what will determine passed or failed? What will determine passed or failed is that if the percentage is greater than 50, it's passed. If it is less than 50, it is failed. So use that criteria to calculate it. And so you are going to add a new column, and the column will state whether a student passed or failed. Now, you are not doing this right now. This is going to be an assignment. So we have other tasks to work on. But in terms of adding columns, this is an assignment that you'd have to complete and submit. So when you are done, you submit to assignment@rateafrica.com. All right. So if you are okay with this assignment, you understand the instructions, let's move on to challenge 6. Now, challenge 6 is saying that we should rename math score to mathematics score. Math score to mathematics score. So to do that, we are going to use a function called .rename. And so please look at this code and write it, and let's see how it works. So df.rename, then you open parentheses and provide 2 arguments. The first argument is called columns, and you have to provide the values. And then the second argument is called in place equal to true. Just type it as it is, and we will explain this. But then this is just a method here, which is called .rename. And this method called .rename is just a function. You can see the parentheses here. It's just a function. And it has 2 default arguments. Remember, a function can have a default argument or a variable named argument where you will provide the values to the variable directly. All right, so these are called keyword arguments. Okay, so the first argument is called columns. So just provide it this way. Math score, column, mathematics score, then in place equals to true. So let's write this code and then we will talk more about it. So let me create a comment here and say renaming math score column to mathematics score column. All right. So we just operate on df, okay, and call .rename. And inside of rename, we will just say columns. And so with columns equal to this, and then you say math score. If you don't want to make a mistake, you can just copy from here. And you are changing this to anything, just that we are calling the mathematics score, just for you to perform this particular rename. Then comma in place, you can see that it is in place like that, equals to true. All right, so let us run this. And if there's no error, it means it worked. Let's try df.head and run it, and we will see that we have been able to rename. Okay, so please, if you have done this, please post it in the chat if you've been able to do it. Now, these are simple tasks, but trust me, these are the things you are going to be needing. Great to see you, Esimame. Esimame is back. We're missing you. I don't know where you were. Mathematics call. Thank you. All right. So Esimame has brought some new energy. So let me see your mathematics score. These things, you should just do them. You should just do them. They look very simple, but they are so important. They are so important. All right. Okay. So I'm going to explain why we have the in place equals to true, because you can do without in place equals to true. And you can see that this is just a function, and the function has two parameters here, column and in place, and two arguments here, but these are keyword arguments. So you provide them directly to the parameters like this. All right. So I'm going to show a text that will explain why we have in place equals to true. And then we can, after the next challenge, I'm going to show you one that we will do without the in place equals to true. So the next time, if you want to do without the in place equals to true, you do it the right way. But if you don't do it the right way, it will be an error if you don't have the in place equals to true. Okay. Now, the first thing is this. You can see that the change we are performing here, we are actually performing it directly on DF. And we are storing the result back to DF. So you can see that when we finished, we just went ahead and we did df.head. If you remember, we did df.head. We didn't do another variable.head. We store the data back to df. So this in place equals to true. You will need it if you are making changes to the main data frame and you want the result to be stored back to the main data frame. So the text here is saying that the in place equals to true argument in the rename function, it is used to modify the original data frame directly without needing to assign the results to a new variable. Now, without the in place equals to true, if you don't use it, the rename function here that you called will return a new data frame in memory with the changes you have requested for. But then you would have to store the new data frame to a new variable or back to DF before it will work. So what this is saying is that this same thing can work if we don't use in place equals to true and we go ahead and assign it back to DF like this. What this means is that in memory, this operation will create an object in memory that is different from the original data frame. And so if you perform this operation, it will be left in memory as garbage unless you assign it to a variable. So you can choose to assign it to any variable you want. And you can also choose to assign it back to df. But then it means that it's a separate object being created when you perform this operation. But you knowing that you don't want to assign it to a different variable, you can just go ahead and add this particular parameter that says in place equals to true. With in place equals to true, it means that Pandas should store the modification back to the main data frame. And so there shouldn't be a new object created. I hope that makes sense to you. So the place equals to true has a purpose. Has a purpose. All right. All right. Okay. So before we go to challenge 7, where we have to remove a column, I'm going to give you one particular challenge for you to work on with regards to replacing or renaming. And after that, we will go ahead and we will work on the next challenge. Okay. I want you to rename gender to just G. Okay, rename gender to G, and let's see who can do it. Gender, just rename it to G. Just rename it to G, and let's see who can do it. Right. So just write a code on your own to rename gender to G and share in the chat for me. Okay, so let's see who has done it. A lot of people have done it already. Okay, so Bernadine used in place equals to true, and she did it, and it worked. This G, I don't even know if it's descriptive enough, but at least we know the code worked. All right, so that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Now, remember that Pandas has various operations. And as someone who will work with data in Python, these operations should be familiar to you, no matter how simple they are. Okay, so renaming is something you should know how to do. And renaming is something you should have done before. Adding to the data frame is something that you should be familiar with. And adding to the data frame is something that you should have done before. All right, let's move on to the next challenge. Let's move on to the next challenge. And this challenge says remove the column school from the data set. So use this code and work on it. You can see how simple it is. You just need to remember the method or the function and you do it. So please do this and share in the chat. I'm giving you 3 minutes. Okay, so this is wonderful. I like what I'm seeing. This is wonderful. All right, so all of these operations, like we said, these are something that you should have done before. And you've all done wonderfully well. before that wonderfully well. So Morang, your code looks very, very clean. There is no school. And the in place equals to true. The in place equals to true is for the same reason as before. So you can write it without the in place equals to true. This means a new data frame will be created and you have to assign it. And with the in place equals to true, there is no new data frame created. So let me drop mine and we will select the columns. Sorry. Let me drop mine. So what we'll do here is to say dropping the school column and we'll call our df.drop. And this particular dot drop, we have the columns equals, and then we will assign it to our column here called school. And then we say comma in place equals to true. All right, so if you run it and you don't see an error, it means it worked. Let me run df.head and let's see what we got, and school is gone. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So these are simple tasks that you should do. You should do. Very, very important. All right. We will have one more task and then we'll wrap up today's lesson. Next week, we'll complete the basic data manipulation and then we move on to advanced levels. And the last task here, before we move on to advanced levels, is called writing to file. Writing to file. And this writing to file, what this means is that the way we are able to read data from a file format like CSV, after modifying our data sets in the data frame, and if you know what is happening here, we are no longer dealing with a CSV. We are dealing with a new data structure here. This data structure is called a data frame. The data came to us through CSV. But after handing it over to Pandas, it is no longer CSV. So it ceases to become CSV. It is no longer CSV, it's a data frame. Pandas will operate on it in its own format called data frame. And if you want to save the data back to these formats, you can go ahead and save it. So what we are going to do is very, very simple. We are going to do two things. We are going to save to CSV, and then after that, I'll allow you to save to Excel, and then we will see how that will be done. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to just save the data sets to CSV. All right. So what we will do is say that df dot, let me press tab here and check this particular function. This function here is called, this one here is called to CSV. So please type this to CSV in the chat for me. Type this to CSV in the chat for me. Type this to CSV in the chat for me. All right. Now, once you have this, you are going to provide two arguments. The first one will be the file name. And the second one, you are going to use one keyword argument called index. And you will set index to false. So here, let's call this modified school how was it before? It was called school students course. So we say modified students course, modified students course dot CSV. All right. So comma index equals to false. You can also do index equals to true if you want the index numbers to show. This is called the index numbers. Now the index numbers here, they are not part of the data set. They are created within the data frame to allow you to get primary keys for the data items. Now, if you are exporting it back to a CSV, you will not need it if you don't want it. Mostly you don't need it because it wasn't part of the original data. But if you need it, then you set the index to true. All right, so let's run this and hopefully it should work. And we didn't get an error. So let's come here and see if we will find it here. And I think I can see it here. So I double click and I have it right here. So this has created a CSV file for you, and Jupyter is actually loading it in a beautiful format, but this is CSV. Remember, it has a delimiter here as comma. CSV stands for comma separated values. And we have it here as a file you can actually use. It is now outside the environment of Pandas, and it's now a CSV format you can share with anyone when you are done. All right, so let's go back here. And now that you've seen how to do the data in the saving in CSV, I want you to save to Excel, and let's see how you will do it. Save to Excel, can give it any file name, and it will work. Remember, if you set index to true, it is going to save the index from the data frame, the indices from the data frame. And if you don't need the index numbers, which you don't really need, you set the index to false. This is just a file name that you want to create, and it's very simple code to CSV. So let me see how you will do to Excel. Remember, when we were importing, when we were loading the data, we were able to read CSV, and we saw that we have read Excel. That same way, we have two CSV, and if you check, you are going to see two Excel. So do yours and let me see how you did it. And let me see someone share this in the chat for me. Okay. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay, I actually want to see your code within your Jupyter environment. So Isimami has done it to Excel. Beautiful. Let me see the file. Oh my goodness. You are wonderful. I can see Isimami's file. It looks wow. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. You make me happy. You make me happy. You are so smart. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful. So that is how you do it, and it is so simple. So let me copy Esimami's code and see if it will work here. So Esimami says saving the data sets from Pandas data frame to Excel. And you call your DF and say dot to Excel. If you want to check if the to Excel is correct, you can press dot and press tab and type it to underscore Excel, and you see that it exists. Hit enter to select it. And then you give it a name. We'll call it the same modified students course. You can give it a shorter name if you want. And Esmami said it become .xlsx. .xlsx. and then comma index equals to false. Let's run this, and I have an error. Okay, I have an Excel writer error. Okay, good. Now, this Excel writer error, it is because of an Excel library that we will have to deal with. So let me see if anybody was able to do it without importing the Excel. So run it and let's see if it worked. Just run it and see if it worked. Okay, so some people got the same error. We need to use OpenPixel. Yeah, but it's fine. At least you've seen how to save it. Okay, it's fine. Okay, so it worked for Nyampandi as well. And it's fine. So once you import OpenPixel, it should work. So let me see to HTML. We have to HTML. Let's see what to HTML will say. Sorry. Let's see what to HTML will say. But at least you've seen the CSV, and that makes it really good. So HTML didn't create an error. Let's go here and see if we have it here. And that's it in HTML. All right. So that's wonderful. You can see the entire data set here. Really, really good. And we have it here. So we are done with these basic tasks. And I gave one assignment. You are supposed to add a new column. You are supposed to add a new column. Okay, so yeah, Google Colab will work because Google Colab has all the dependencies. So Amon had this working in Google Colab. That's beautiful. And yes. So what I want to tell you is that these are seemingly simple tasks, but they are extremely important. They are extremely important. And if you use Python with data, these are tasks you should be aware of. These are tasks you should have done before or you are introduced to. Okay. Because if you are not familiar with these tasks, there are certain important things you will not be able to do. And as a matter of fact, there are certain lessons that you will not be able to follow. So these are simple tasks you need to perform, and they are very important. I know how important they are. This is why we are taking the time to go through them. Today, we've been able to work on a project where we are able to manipulate a data frame by adding new columns. So we're able to add new columns, and we were able to rename columns, and we've been able to delete columns as well. Delete columns as well. All right. Now, to delete a column, we just use the dot drop. This dot drop is something that you are going to be needing most of the time, especially if you are in machine learning. You may have to create your features and your target. And most of the time, the target is a series, meaning a single column, and the features is made up of multiple columns, and sometimes all the other columns can be features. And so in your machine learning class, to create your X data set for the input, all you have to do is to drop the column that will be used for the output. And don't use in place equals to true, because if you use in place equals to true, it will save it in the main data set. And so you just assign this. You just assign this to X like this without this. Okay. So this means that, let's say we are predicting schools. So schools is supposed to be the Y. Schools is supposed to be the Y column, or the target. By dropping schools from the DF, sorry, equals to, you have said that the output column should be removed and all the remaining columns should be stored here. Then all you will do is to create the output one also out of DF and say that DF, because DF has not been tampered with because we store the results in X. Then you can say that DF should also fetch school for you and store it in Y. Okay, so the machine learning students, you understand what I'm saying. All right. If you run this here, okay, school, we have already dropped it, so it doesn't exist, but you get the idea. If you run this, what is going to happen, because we dropped it before, what is going to happen is that it is going to create your X for you and your Y for you. Okay, it's going to create your X for you and your Y for you, and you'll be able to have your X and Y for the machine learning training. Now, all right, thank you, Francis, for the machine learning training. And so when it's time for you to do your training, when it's time for you to do your training, when it's time for you to do your training, I'm going to ask a simple question right now. When it's time for you to do your training, now you know that X, watch this, X is now everything without percentages. Sorry, did I drop right? Where am I? Okay, that's it. So X is everything without percentages, okay? And then Y is only percentages. Okay, so Y is only the percentages, okay, or the percentage score. So right now, if you want to do your training with X and Y, and you call your model, what method do we use to perform the training? What method do we use to perform the training.fit? All right, so once you call your model, you can say model.fit, and then you fit it on X and Y. So by doing this, you've been able to split your data into features. Features, where is it stored? It's up here. Okay, to features right here. Let me delete the second one. And targets. And now you've trained your model. We are not using scikit-learn, so I can't run this. Then you've trained your model, and now your model can go ahead and do prediction for you. And if you don't understand this, you can join the machine learning class and you will understand. All right. So I know the importance of what we've covered here, and I believe this is something that will make a lot of difference in how we handle data. My question is, have you learned anything new in this particular class? If yes, let me see in the chat. And Newman says, yes, sir, I've learned something. Ibrahim has learned something. Isimami has learned something. And Lucretia, where is Robley? I can't see Robley today. I can't see Robley today. All right. So thank you all. This is important. So we have about 4 tasks to complete, and we go through those ones. Once we understand them, then we can do advanced things like visualization and more with pandas, and of course, data cleaning as well. These simple tasks, I will urge you to go over them and be familiar with them. You can see they are very simple, but these are things that you need to retain when working with pandas. Once you have your data frame, you know how to rename, you know how to drop, you know how to add a new column. So if you know how to do these things, you'll be able to handle data within pandas. So thank you all very much for joining. We will continue in the next class. I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.